We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday, talking seasonal allergies with two doctors from Vanderbilt. Yasmin Khan and Donna Hummel are with us, and they can answer questions if you have any on, how you're feeling right now, what you're taking, treatments. So when we went to the break, we were just talking about some of the prescription or over-the-counter nasal sprays. You said in some cases, if not used properly, you can get some drying that causes bleeding or anything like that from the nose.
That's correct. It's really important when you use nasal sprays that you angle the tip of the bottle out towards your ear. So put the
as opposed to straight up
or angling it in towards the middle of your nose, because the interior of your nose is pretty vascular and can bleed easily. So
I didn't know
proper
that.
technique is important.
Okay, so point it so that if you're this nostril going out that direction and vice versa. And
it can be helpful to use your opposite hands because it sort of naturally angles it in the right direction.
And that's for some of the various nasal sprays. I know some of them give you quick relief. Can we touch on some of the other symptoms? There are some people now I know that have asthmas and bronchial issues that it really hits home. But again, talking on my own personal experience, I've had times before where I've been out and then I come back in and I literally find myself shortness of breath. And I can just feel it's like because of the pollen or something. It's not very uncomfortable. Like you're having trouble or you feel like there's constriction in there. I think, am I having a heart attack? Of course I'm not. I mean, what's going on here? And I think it's got to be allergies. Is that one of the symptoms?
Most people who have any symptoms in their chest after an exposure to pollen or any other allergen, and it could be dust mite indoors, probably have some low-grade inflammation in the air passages of their bronchial tree, and that may be a very mild or early form of asthma.
Okay, and but that's symptomatic with the pollen. It's not. I don't have that when I'm not around pollen.
Right. So I mean, people who treat asthma, doctors and other providers who treat asthma, realize that there are many different forms of asthma. There's a mild form that we call cough variant asthma, and that individual only has chest symptoms and cough and never has wheezing and doesn't really get air hunger or difficulty breathing. They just have a chronic cough. But it responds to treatment the way asthma would respond to treatment.
Because the same type of thing,
And other individuals have significant problems only with exercise, and that's called exercise-induced asthma or bronchospasm. And people who have allergies are going to be at higher risk of the development of asthma over their entire lifetime. There's just from chronic exposure to what you're allergic to.
And the treatment for this, like with asthma patients, is again with the inhaler or with the nose sprays, or would there be an inhaler?
So it's interesting that we have lung symptoms with allergies, and individuals may have what seems to be isolated nasal or sinus and eye symptoms with allergy, but we consider that the entire same airway. And there's even a name for that in the medical community. It's called the unified airway hypothesis. But what it really means is that what happens in your nose can affect what happens down in your lungs. And if you have a very mild form of allergic asthma, making sure that you've treated what's going on in your nose to reduce the inflammation is going to reduce any problem down in the lungs. So you may not actually need an inhaler if you've treated your nose properly.
Yeah, and the inhalers, by the way, different. Now, the nose spray is obviously up the nose. There's some other stuff people put in their mouth and breathe. Is it the same stuff that you put in your nose, or is it different? Still steroid?
There are steroid inhalers, and then there are quick relief rescue inhalers that are bronchodilators. That would be like albuterol or
for someone who's really feeling as though they're not getting any oxygen or something like that. Okay, let's take a call from Ethel. Hi, Ethel.
Yes, I was going to tell you about the home remedy that my ancestors have always used.
Bring it on. What do you got?
Okay, they would take bourbon, lemon juice, honey or sugar, and mix it together and put it on the stove and let it cook until it got thick like cough syrup.
Yeah.
And they use it for colds, congestion, nasal drainage, And it really works.
It sounds like a hot tot. Now, I'm guessing if they put it on the stove, then the bourbon, the alcohol's boiling out of it. So what's left is just a lemon, honey, and kind of whiskey-flavored syrup?
Yes, and you took it twice a day.
And it works for your throat?
Yes, once in the morning and at night before you go to bed.
All right, thank you. Well, that's interesting. And I've heard similar kind of recipes, breaking down just the ingredients in that. And I'm guessing alcohol unto itself, if you're drinking something that has liquor in it, maybe that can be drying and not the best thing for your throat. But lemon, honey, bourbon, what do you think?
I used to think that my grandparents gave us that just to make us sleepy.
Yeah,
Right. The alcohol part of it.
Right.
But they said that it really helped with cough. So I don't know if there's some cough suppressant part of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it works for you, that sounds awesome. That sounds like it might be soothing for your throat. You've ever heard of the whole hot toddy kind of angle and something along those lines. So, yeah, take something like that to soothe it. Now, let's just move on to the whole broad spectrum of the pills and the treatments, the prescription things that you'll give your patients. So many of them now have become available over the counter, right?
Yes.
So the ones that were prescription are now available over the counter. Are there things that are prescription now that are even better than those that are now available over the counter? I mean, or why would you get a prescription pill these days?
There are at least one class of medications that are still prescription singular in the
why is that? What is the reason for them remaining prescription? They could be abused?
No. I don't know why they are. I don't really know what underlies the decision to make it prescription or over the counter. But those medications can be very effective in patients who have both allergies and asthma, or patients who have one and not the other.
And sometimes you interchange those, or you have those along with an inhaler as well.
Correct.
Now, is it important, let's say you just go and you know the season's coming on and you go buy your Claritin. Does it matter whether you get 12, 24-hour pills? I mean, right? Do you think one's more effective than the other? What would you do?
Well, most of the over-the-counter antihistamines now, the second generations like Claritins or Tech and Allegra, are 24-hour. So they all typically
a 24-hour.
A 24-hour
Okay,
period.
so you get those. Do you have to start taking those before you start showing the symptoms?
Those medications work quickly and can work when you already have the symptoms.
All right.
The nasal sprays do not work that way.
So you want to start the nasal spray before the symptoms hit. So you need to say, look, spring's coming. I know I'm going to have a problem with it. Let's get to how long ahead of time?
So we usually tell people in our clinic to start thinking about it around Valentine's Day. That is a couple of weeks before trees start to pollinate in Tennessee. So if you can get a 2-week head start, then you are really doing well.
2-week head start, then in a way you're prepped for it. And then
and your nose can't even react to the pollen when it comes,
that's great.
Which is the goal.
That's the way to go.
Yes.
All right, and again, as you said, the Claritin, Zyrtex, and all of those, those are types of antihistamines?
They are.
Which again, and remind folks what an antihistamine is. What does it block? The reaction to?
Histamine is one of the major components of an allergic reaction. It is what acts on your nose and makes you sneeze and itch.
Something bad goes in your nose, and then your nose reacts, and it's histamines.
And the antihistamines block that.
Yeah, right? Blocks that, so then you don't have the same symptom anymore. Now, there's a medical, there's a biological reason your nose is reacting with histamines when something foreign enters it, right? Why do we want to mess with that? I mean, the symptoms, by eliminating the symptoms, which is runniness, which probably helps get rid of the pollen up your nose, doesn't that mean the pollen remains?
It does, but if you do your nasal rinse, then
see, it's all in conjunction. What I'm picking up here is there's a network of treatment. It's not just one thing.
That's correct.
That is true.
And then we haven't even talked about the shots and going through, for people who are very, very severe. Do you deal mostly with those folks, or you get a broad spectrum of patients?
I would say we get a broad spectrum.
Yeah, we have a broad spectrum.
That come in, but usually to go to a doctor, I've not gone to a doctor so much for allergies because I'm able to kind of deal with them with over-the-counter things. How do you, what kind of issues should you consider to think, okay, I need to go see a doctor? What would you say?
Well, I believe asthma is a significant complication of
if you're someone who has
allergic disease,
asthma,
and I think if you suspect you have asthma, you should go to have that evaluated and confirmed, and then have the professional advice on how to treat that.
Yeah, okay, that's a good example. Asthma, if you're asthmatic and you have it severe, come allergy season, if you're not treated, could you die?
Asthma can be fatal.
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Now, that's more of the severe cases. I don't want to scare many of you out there on that. But listen, we need to take a break on that note. When we come back, more of your phone calls, 737-7587, more about what you can do to protect yourself from the allergy season, which is really just getting going right now. I mean, the worst is yet to come.
It's upon us.
Okay, we'll take a break. After this long break, we'll be back with more right after this. Stay with us.